You can check it out.
Okay, great. All right, so we are live now. It means that people can watch us on YouTube, and if there's any need for, you know, getting feedback and comments from those there, we will go there to check it. So without much ado, I'd like to welcome everyone to this seminar in commemoration of the World Population Day. The Graduate Research Clinic prides itself in engaging topical issues that affects Africans as well as the rest of the world. And we do this so as to encourage young emerging scholars as well as those who are at advanced levels in their research or in their career to interrogate ideas. So we foster multidisciplinary, transnational, and intergenerational dialogue. My name is Toby Adewumi. I'm the team lead of the Graduate Research Clinic, and I study and teach African studies at the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, and it's my pleasure to have a lineup of speakers here with us today. But before I introduce them, I'd like us to watch a short video on what today's event is about. Um, we'll be watching a very brief video on the World Population Day and its implications for everyone around the planet. Enjoy.
World Population Day 2025, Rethinking Growth, Dignity, and the Future of Humanity, July 11, 2025. A date that might look like any other day on the calendar, but for millions across the world it represents something far greater. A global moment to reflect on the heartbeat of humanity, our population, its growth, its challenges, and its future. This is World Population Day, observed annually to highlight the urgency and importance of population issues, including reproductive health, gender equity, sustainability, and human dignity. This year's theme, Empowering Young People to Create the Families They Want in a Fair and Hopeful World, reflects a seismic shift in how we must now think about the human story. It's not just about how many we are, it's about who we are, what we need, and what kind of world we are building together. As of mid-2025, the global population is estimated to exceed 8.2 billion people. That's nearly 71 million more people than just a year ago. But this increase hides a deeper truth. Population growth is slowing down. Fertility rates in many parts of the world, including countries like Japan, Italy, South Korea, and even China, are below replacement level, while others like India and Nigeria continue to grow at a faster pace. But numbers only tell part of the story. Today, over half of the world's population is under the age of 30. This means we are not just facing a population challenge, we are living through a youthquake. Billions of young people stand at the threshold of adulthood, searching for jobs, dignity, opportunity. What happens when those dreams clash with economic instability, climate anxiety, unaffordable housing, and gender inequality? The UNFPA's 2025 State of World Population Report, titled The Real Fertility Crisis, makes one thing clear. Most people still want children, but cannot have them in the way, time, or number they wish. The reasons? Soaring costs of living, lack of paid parental leave and affordable childcare, workplace discrimination against parents, especially women, insecure housing and employment, mental health challenges, and climate concerns. This is not a fertility crisis driven by biological failure. It's a crisis of systemic failure, one where people's reproductive agency, the ability to make real, free, and informed choices, is being blocked by economic and social barriers. And while some governments react by urging people to have more children to save economies, the truth is more complex. You can't solve demographic decline by pressuring people. You solve it by building societies where choosing parenthood is possible, equitable, and supported. In the past, World Population Day was often framed around overpopulation, a fear of too many people straining the Earth's resources. While those concerns are still relevant, especially in terms of climate, food, and water security, the narrative today is far more nuanced. In the global south, access to family planning and reproductive healthcare remains limited. Millions of girls are still married young and denied education or autonomy. In the global north, people are delaying or avoiding children, not out of choice, but out of necessity. In urban areas worldwide, infrastructure and policies are not keeping pace with demographic realities. So today, World Population Day is not about numbers. It's about justice, equity, and reclaiming human dignity. It is a call to empower youth, especially women and marginalized communities, with education and opportunity. Ensure universal access to reproductive health care, including contraception, fertility support, and maternal care. Address the root causes of declining birth rates, not just the symptoms. Design cities and systems that support family life, environmental balance, and well-being. Let us pause and reframe how we see population. A large population is not a burden, unless we make it one. A smaller population is not a blessing, unless we invest in every life. People are not a problem to solve. People are the solution, the innovation, the art, the love, the future. Whether it's a child born in a remote village or a teen studying under a street lamp in a busy metro, every human being has a spark that can shape the future. But only if we give them the space, the tools, and the chance. On this World Population Day, we are not asked to panic, but to pause. Not to fear, but to reimagine. We are called to ask, what kind of world are we building for 8.2 billion people? Are we making decisions that prioritize human dignity and planetary sustainability? Are we allowing people to live with freedom, purpose, and hope? The world will continue to change. Populations will rise and fall, but the question of how we treat each other, how we care, include, empower, and respect each life that will decide what kind of civilization we become. Let's remember, behind every statistic is a real person. Behind every population chart is a heartbeat, a dream, a story waiting to unfold. So this July 11th, don't just mark a date on the calendar. Mark a shift in awareness. Think deeper, act kinder, lead wiser. Because World Population Day is not about others. It's about us, all of us, together.
All right, then. Thank you all for watching. Once again, you're welcome to today's World Population Day seminar organized by the Graduate Research Clinic. The Graduate Research Clinic is a multidisciplinary, transnational, and intergenerational network of graduate students, early career to senior career scholars, as well as independent professionals on the continent and in the African diaspora. Today, we have a wonderful lineup of speakers to help us understand and unpack this idea of collective well-being in a fast-changing planet, and I will be introducing them shortly. I have the pleasure of introducing Professor Olayinka Akonle. I just want to put up his bio on the screen. So for those of us who may not be familiar with him would see who Professor Akonle is. Give me a second, please. All right, great. So Professor Akonle is a distinguished sociologist, lecturer, and researcher in the Department of Sociology at the University of Ibadan. He also serves as a senior research associate at the Department of Sociology, the Faculty of Humanities at the University of Johannesburg, South Africa, and also as a research associate at the Nigerian Institute of Social and Economic Research, the FCT branch. Professor Akonle is the recipient of several prestigious scholarly and practice awards, including recognition from the Folk Bernadotte Academy in Sweden. He is also a recipient of the International Social Science Council Award in Paris and a Codestra awardee in Dakar. He has also been honored through the African Science Leadership Program, and he has received the University of Ibadan Postgraduate School Prize for his numerous scholarly publications. Professor Akonle had previously held a postdoc at the South African Research Chair Initiative in Social Policy at the University of South Africa. His research is deeply interdisciplinary, engaging critical themes such as governance and environment, gender, family, sexuality, political economy, knowledge production, migration, diaspora, youth, conflict, security, health, and medicine. Professor Akonle is widely published with over 150 scholarly articles to his name, and he has contributed to leading platforms, including the Ibadan Journal of Sociology, the Springer Journals, Routledge, Emerald, and the rest of them. Professor Akonle is actively involved in various funded research groups, and he continues to present his work at different academic fora. And one of the more important things about Professor Akonle is that he continues to advance critical dialogue on Africa's social realities through his scholarship and mentorship. Please join me as I make welcome Professor Olayinka Akonle. You're welcome, sir. Next in our lineup is Ebere Nnamwube. Ebere, you permit me, but I'm fond of calling you Ebere. I haven't had to master your last name, but I hope I learn it before the end of the session. Ebere is also a sociologist. Give me a sec as I also pull up our profile here. Just a minute, please. All right, got it. All right, so Ebere is a doctoral candidate in the Department of Sociology at the University of Ibadan. Today we have a lineup of Ibadan superstars as well as global superstars, so you'll permit us. She specializes in the sociology of development. Her research focuses on plastic recycling practices and the experiences of women plastic recyclers in Lagos State. As a qualitative feminist researcher, our work explores the intersections of gender, labor, and environmental justice. Currently, Ebere is a participant in the 2025 Young Scientists Summer Program at the International Institute of Applied Systems Analysis under the Population and Just Societies program in Austria. Our ongoing research from zero plastic waste to resource contestation, tackling inequalities at Lagos landfill site, investigates workplace gender-based inequalities among women waste pickers and broader questions of justice for marginalized groups. Iberia has participated in several regional research and capacity building programs, including the 2022 Codestra Summer School, the 2023 Next Gen Dissertation Research Fellowship, the 2023 Codestra Mentorship College, and the 2024 PASR Junior Scholars Workshop. Iberi is currently completing a PhD while actively disseminating her findings. She's an aspiring author and academic committed to gender equity and sustainable plastic pollution management. Please welcome with me to the platform, Iberi Florence Nnamwube. And the person I would like to introduce in as absentia is open to join us soon. I don't know if Dr. Busari is already on the platform with us, is our moderator for today. I'll be stepping into issues briefly before he joins, but please permit me to introduce him in absentia. Dr. Dauda Busari holds a PhD in sociology from the University of Ibadan, where he also serves as a lecturer in the Department of Sociology. He was a postdoc research fellow at the Population and Research Training Unit Northwest University now, or at the Mafeking campus in South Africa. He has worked extensively in the social and consumer research in a consultancy capacity, with a strong focus on strategic assessment of customer needs and attitudes towards various products. His approach draws on a broad range of research methods to generate practical and insightful outcomes. His research is diverse, drawing from both quantitative and qualitative traditions. Dr. Busari's research interests includes the sociology of development, rural sociology, social theory, the sociology of religion, migration, gender studies, and the sociology of the family. He's an associate member of the Nigerian Institute of Marketing Research, and he has contributed to both local and international scholarly conversations through his numerous platforms, whether in the lecture or on the field. Dr. Busari is deeply interested in the human side of change, how societies grow, adapt, and resist in the world of shifting values. Please join me also as I make welcome Dr. Dauda Busari. You're welcome to this platform. It's a privilege to have you all engage this topical issue. As we all know, population is a very crucial agenda in national development. Without population planning, it is almost impossible to talk about development. And so for that reason, I would like you to please give me your bird view opinion on why a day like this is important to be celebrated. And I would like to begin with Ebere.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, Professor Conley. It's an honor to be on this panel with you. And good evening, Toby and team, for inviting me over. It's also an honor. So a day like this is very important. The video we watched earlier already says a lot about it, but just a little contribution to the video. The world obviously is full of injustices. And unfortunately, the part of people who are supposed to help to shape things are not even aware of some of these injustices because the population groups that are affected are not obvious. The population groups that are affected are not visible. Even if they are known, sometimes their situations is almost sort of is almost sort of a stench on the image of is perceived like a stench on the image of the entire population or country. So it's rather hidden and not talked about. So I'm particularly grateful for this a platform like this where we can share some of the issues, because as a matter of fact, we can't be talking about development at any capacity if everyone is not growing. We can't even as a nation brag about advancing, let alone compete internationally, if we still have a lot of people that are left behind. Unfortunately, we have a lot of this in this part of the world, in the developing economies like Nigeria and the other parts of West Africa and Africa at large. We have a lot of population groups to be concerned about. From my own study, I've been fortunate to see a lot of them. I didn't actually expect to see some of the things I saw, but my research afforded me the opportunity to see some of the population groups we cannot afford to ignore, the waste pickers. I'm sure the research of other scholars has also afforded them the opportunity to see other people, other groups, other marginalized groups who are not just in their situation because of personal decisions, but because of broad societal injustices. So I believe a day like this is very important to discuss, to also think about how, as scholars and emerging scholars, we can make contributions to shape the world and the society that we all hope would afford everyone justice. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Ebere. Professor Conley, why do you think this kind of day is important? I mean, there's a lot of United Nations designated days that may or may not have a direct import for African development. Why do you think the Population Day is a different kind of day?
Yeah, thank you very much, first and foremost, for the invitation. And thank you very much for spotlighting the day in this manner, which is very important. Nice to see you, Ebere, and nice to see how much progress you are making. And it's also my pleasure to share this platform with you. And thank you so much, Graduate Research Clinic as an entity. And thank you, the moderator, for thinking through to make this day in this manner. Just like it was said, the UN also said that it should be, there are so many. I've been on different shows, on different TV platforms, other platforms, or for different days, and it's also good to be on this platform to draw attention to the intersection of population and development. I think it's quite very important to commemorate it in a scholarly manner, at the same time in practice manner. And it's very important at the same time to do this so that we're able to explore the nuances, because the dynamics are very, strategic in so many ways. So the nuances need to be explored, and also to escalate the discussion in this manner, to draw attention to the inhumanity of humans to humans, and to also canvas again, though not that we don't know that population does not necessarily have to be a liability. What is very important is the intentionality of key actors to be fair, to be just, to be equitable, and to bring so many of those people who are left behind to the front burner of the communication. Not only even in developing countries or low and middle income countries, even in the so-called developed countries, there are issues in those places. In the United States, for example, we're having the issue of human rights abuses, focusing on even those who are legal. That's then the issue of destitution. Some so-called developed countries even have very negative human rights, record increasingly. The level of destitution in the midst of so-called development. Many people are in the crowd, you are very lonely. So many people are in the rich countries, yet very poor. So it's good for us to also note that development is not necessarily a label, or population is not necessarily a label. People used to think population is a problem for development. On China, until China emerged on the development lane, overtaking even many of the so-called, what took many countries, many years to achieve, to China only 10 years or so. India is also doing very well. The BRICS nations are also showing us another development model. And the list can be said to be endless. So the day is beyond just drawing attention to the dynamics or realities of population and development in poor countries. It also draws our attention to even some of these issues, even in the rich countries, especially within the framework of Sustainable Development Goal, which says we have to plan with data and we must not leave anybody behind. And it's very important to engage in this conversation because of the abysmal performance of many countries on Millennium Development Goals. So that we also don't go the way of Millennium Development Goals, MDGs, in the era of SDG. If you look at the issue of population and development, and the issue of population, World Population Day, all the SDGs have nodes, that must be covered through the population need. So if you don't get the population and development correctly, then SDG can be said to be a failure right from beginning. So thank you very much for this platform and for organizing this kind of event.
Thank you, Prof. It's good to have you, sir. I would like to yield the floor to Dr. Busari. I see you on the train, Nigerian Railway Corporation's train. I know you're working from wherever you are. Thank you for making the time to join us. So, Dr. Busari, over to you, sir. Hello, Dr. Busari, can you hear me at all?
Hello, I can hear you.
If you're not traveling with this train and you're still on board, kindly make your exit.
Hello.
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Do you want us to give you some time because of the background?
Everyone, the cabin is not allowed except to use the cabin.
I hope you can hear me.
We can hear many people actually. We can hear you and the announcer on radio.
Of each code. Please be informed that we have a nurse on board to attend to medical issues. Finding assistance regarding the use of our facility.
Hello. We'd like to give you some time
Please
so you
sit
can
back
settle
and enjoy
well.
your trip. Thank you for choosing Nigeria.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. So we've been talking about the importance of this day.
So I can take your
Okay,
question now.
great. Yes.
Yeah, please, but can you please come again, please?
Yeah, I was just talking about the importance of this day, just like Iberi and Professor Akonle has said, and I wanted to know your own opinion on that. Why is this kind of
Okay. So good afternoon, Toby. And thank you for providing this platform. I was reluctant really because I knew I would be in transit going to Lagos.
Okay, Kitsala train station.
I hope you can hear me.
That's fine.
Yes, we can. I can actually, although it's difficult
Baba
with the background noise, but I can struggle to hear you. Do you know what we can do, sir? We can circle back to you when you're in transit. How about that? We'll circle back to you again.
All right.
So we don't, yes, that's fine.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, so we are still proceeding with the conversation, and I'd like to ask both Professor Akonle and Iberi a series of questions. Now, this chat that we're having today is largely conversational, so we are not making it in the sense of one person or a group of people speaking over the rest of us. And so we'd like anyone who at any point has a question or a contribution to kindly do so. We only ask that you either raise your hands or you drop your comments on the chat box. So I'll start with Professor Akonle this time. We know that, as you said, without accurate census, there is no way we can plan adequately for our populations. We can plan for even the coming generation. Now, I want us to reflect a bit on the census scenario in most African countries, especially Nigeria. The last time, if I remember correctly, Nigeria conducted a population census was sometime in 2006. There's been attempts to, hold a nationwide census, but they keep postponing due to logistic and financial challenges. I want us to talk about how this kind of lack of accurate population census affects addressing the lived realities of those marginalized communities. So the question is, how does the lack of accurate census data affect marginal communities?
Yeah, thank you very much for the question. You see, the issue of census across many developing countries, particularly in Africa and even some part of Asia, is a very serious quagmire in the sense, and that is why in many of these countries, development continues to be very elusive. And many of them, even with the abundant resources they have, many of them even natural resources. That is why it's not strange that Africa is also experiencing some appreciable immigration. Unfortunately, people will not talk about the net migration of Nigeria. You know, the net migration of Nigeria is actually not one of the worst. Although Nigerians are experiencing JAPA, massive immigration. Yes, some people are moving into Nigeria. I do a lot of work on migration and development. So this is an area I'm very comfortable with. So, because Nigeria is the migration hub, Nigeria is a destination country, transit country, and a country of origin. And these, as many people are leaving Nigeria, many are also, coming into Nigeria. And you also know that Nigeria also have appreciable fertility rate. So, but since you are using Nigeria as an example, so migration in Nigeria is a very political issue, and it's not surprising that Nigeria has not been able to conduct another census after 2006, which was very contentious. If you remember very well, even in that 2006, Lagos State had to conduct parallel census because they did not have trust in the National Population Commission, because it's very political. And when you look at the results of census from Lagos, it's quite different from the one from the National Population body. And so it's not surprising that underdevelopment or many communities are marginalized and left behind. But beyond the marginalized community or communities that are vulnerable and poor and vulnerable, minority groups, beyond them, even in the cities, we have problems of planning with data. And sustainable development goal, a major variable in the emphasis of SDG is planning with data, because the SDG is built on data. That's why even the issue of leaving no one behind in the SDG is linked to availability of data. So the same lack of data affected the performance of Nigeria and many poor countries on MDGs. It was a colossal failure. After that, we have transited to SDG, and early predictions suggest that the SDG might actually, end worse than MDG because of so many reasons. The data scenarios has not improved. Even there were more commitments across many countries to MDG than to SDG. I teach development studies, and I also do a lot of development work. I also consult, and I belong to many international organizations. As I talk to you, I'm not in Nigeria on a different issue that is related to development and data. So there's skepticism that SDG is not going the right way. And data and commitment are central to this. Political will is central to this. So that's why we have to continue to engage in this conversation. You trace the trajectory of census in Nigeria, for example. Nigeria has been relying on population projection based on 2006 data up to now. And projections cannot be taken to be as accurate as census. I did a report for one organization recently. I had to use 2006 data. Imagine, it's supposed to be an infrastructure project. So they reached out to me and said, Professor Akinwunle, you use 2006 data. I said, that's the only official data. The one you see on World Clock, the one you see on World Bank, the one you see on United Nations, and some other, they are only projections. And some bodies will not allow you to use projection data because they are not seem to be so. You see different just on Nigerian population. You see different data. Go to World Bank, go to United Nations, go to WHO. You see, none of them can give you exact. You see different. So the issue of data is central. And many people also, even in Nigeria, many parts of Africa, don't deliver their children in hospitals. Many at home, many on religious centers, and they are not documented. Nigeria does not document birth sufficiently and does not document death sufficiently. So I think the issue of you noted, you will discover that Nigeria, even one of the major wars that have been fought in Nigeria in history originated from this dispute from the census figure. So every government in Nigeria continue to postpone and shift. No president want to go into census because it can actually destabilize the government. What are you going to say? Suddenly now you will say, Lagos has overtaken Kano significantly. Northerners will not accept because it's based on census figure that resources are shared in Nigeria. In Nigeria, you have Senate 3 per state. In House of Rep, is based on population. Resources are shared. That's why there's also ethnic identity commoditization in Nigeria, because everything is linked to it. So I'm quite very worried as well. The lack of data is a major one, and census is the most fundamental data. Though we have them, we have NDHS in many countries, but they are not as comprehensive as census. Census is a total count. The NDHS is just based on some random sampling. It doesn't cover everywhere. So not having data in Nigeria, which is the most populous nation, nation in Africa, one of the most populous in the world. 1 in 4 Africans is in Nigeria. Nigeria now is conveniently one of the biggest economy in Africa, the biggest for that matter. So, and if Nigeria does not get it right, Africa cannot be said to take it, because if you control for Nigeria's population, it will be obvious. So I think so. The issue of data is at the center of development. If you plan without data, it's like a plane flying without GPS. You know what will happen. How do you plan for the number of people you don't know? So before I left Nigeria, we knew how many people are coming. We know how many hotel rooms to get. We know how many food to prepare for. That's just basic example. So if you don't know how many people are in Lagos, how many people are in Nigeria, how do you plan for their education? How do you plan sufficiently for women? How do you plan sufficiently for out-of-school children? How do you plan for health facilities? How do you plan for employment? How do you plan for school enrollment and number of graduates? These are things. How do you know life expectancy? How do you know population rate? How do you know GDP? How do you so? It's quite a very and now Buhari, for example, Jonathan avoided census because he can discredit the government, can lead to war. Buhari avoided it. Transmitted, postponed. I was invited to come for the training of census. They spent billions of naira to prepare for that census under Buhari. They have bought all the gadgets, laptop, tablet, everything. They have bought everything. They just simply avoided in fact, it consumed the Director General of the Nigerian Population Commission, the issue of census. They were ready. Buhari shifted it till he left office. Tinubu, is the list on his plate. He's not talking about it. They started the conversation recently again. It has gone dormant. So I think it's what it is. Data is very important, but the data attitude in African countries and underdeveloped countries is zero. The infrastructures are also not there. No database as a baseline. Nothing to build on. And you can't build something on nothing. So that's why there's a lot of lack of political will. Then you also know that census are no country in Africa can conduct census solely. They are supported technically and financially from Europe and America and Canada. Even a lot of countries depend on World Bank and IMF and other countries to conduct census for them. Ordinary demographic and net survey, no, they can't conduct in Africa. So usually sponsored by European Union. Unfortunately, with the Trumpian era, funding is actually disappearing to support this country to conduct census. So with the lack of political will, political shenanigans, lack of interest in countries, and lack of international support, I see the future of data in Africa is actually very bleak. So that's why we have to escalate this conversation and place emphasis on data. Otherwise, the SDG, which is the global framework for measuring development and even associated issues, we are waiting to evaluate, and we are constantly evaluating. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Like you rightly diagnosed, the SDG may be a far worse paradigm for us than the MDGs were, but we are still watching. Ebere, I want to ask you, you've been working with women, waste speakers in Lagos. What are the data and knowledge gaps you've seen in this kind of work? What do you think are typically missing when it comes to capturing the lived experiences of resource-poor people? Because we are still talking about how to ensure collective well-being, and it seems as if we've all forgotten that there are some people who are still living below the $1, $1.5 per day poverty line. So how do you what are the data and knowledge gaps you see in your research? If you can make it between 1 to 2 minutes, that'll be good. Thank you.
Okay. So in the course of my research, I also noticed that, in fact, I wanted to get adequate data of men and women in my particular research sites, but I couldn't find that. I mean, this is even a small location, just landfill sites, but that was missing. Even when I also tried that from the formal sector, up to today, I couldn't get, they couldn't supply me adequate data. In fact, they didn't supply me, this is the number of these people, this is the number of men and women, this is the entire number. So data, I spotted that as an issue. Even in published works, there were different data from different scholars who have worked on similar issues in the past. So there was no uniformity. Though recently I saw a work that was published in 2024, not necessarily a research article, but that was still not a generalized data of recyclers or informal recyclers from Nigeria. So I spotted that as an issue. And I also spotted research gaps in other aspects. If you want me to go into that, I spotted research gaps in other aspects of the informal recyclers. I don't know if that would be important to talk about now, but maybe if it's not, I'll stop here.
Yeah,
and let's just this.
Yeah, we'll get into the nitty-gritty of your research subsequently. Now we are just trying to scratch the surface and why the idea of getting an accurate population census data is required for capturing other people. Now, I'll turn it over to you, Professor Kunle. You laid a lot of foundation about how this is germane for development and development thinking. You're a scholar, you've researched, and you think both in theory and practice terms. I want you to tell us from your experience, what are the challenges you think scholars, researchers, whether they are sociologists, demographers, or even in other fields, what do you think they experience, whether on the field or even in the classroom, in terms of teaching population?
Yeah, that's a very, complex question, but I will try to unbundle it. You teaching population or researching population for especially from developing countries like Nigeria, you have a major challenge of motivation. Motivation is a major issue because you see many African scholars are very demotivated. And if I zero in, then Nigeria is at the center of the motivation. The salary is so poor. So many people just go to class, some, except in private university. Even those ones are even more demotivated. Though the private university have a way of packaging things as though things are fine, but we that we're on the ground, we see how many people lecture in those places and how much frustration they have. So the salaries are poor, then so there's demotivation, then access to materials, access to funds. If you want to be a cutting-edge scholar in, for example, in Nigeria and many African countries, you have to rely on personal resources. You get your own internet facility. Sometimes, for example, I'm in Nigeria. I'm not connected to national grid. I just disconnected, and I'm fully on solar powered electricity generation at my own cost. They run to be millions, but that's the way I can stay competitive. But many people will not be able to do that. So it's like walking through the blood, or using your blood if you want to be at the forefront. So the facilities are poor, remunerations are poor, motivation is heading down south consistently, and the regulators are not so much interested. So people look forward to it outside of the classroom. So except you are self-motivated, teaching in Nigeria is not a very easy one. And you're not likely to be top-notch because the facilities are not there, except you create your own facility and you look for your own motivation elsewhere outside of the system, which will affect your commitment to the system ultimately. Now let's talk about practice. Practicing, or researching, population. Data is a major problem. Most of the time we rely on data from international organizations. You can't trust data from the government institutions because most of the time the data across board are very doctored. They are politically tilted, so you can't rely on them. And that is another major problem I want to let you know, and I want you to note, is that many of the researches that are done in Africa most of the time are self-sponsored. A lot of them, people publish they just do micro researches or little researches, compartmentalized researches just for the promotion, to publish enough to get promotion. After promotion to professorship, they just stop bothering themselves because there are not many funding avenues, for African scholars. So if you want to use reliable data, you simply use international data. I've had to use data from government National Bureau of Statistics at some level, and they were rejected. They're not talking to the reality. So you have to use data from IMF, WHO, UNDP, or even CIA, open source data across board. So data is a major problem if you want to do any research. And many of the time, the research you want to do, international data, they are secondary data. So if you have original data, work you want to do, you may just have to scavenge, data here and there, and you can't really trust those data because any of them are not comparative. Just like Ebere mentioned, you want to do your own research that's original, you may not have data in that area. So you begin to gather your own data. And when you don't have the fund, what happens? Expect you're also a creative lecturer that you can just work with your students to explore new areas. Sometimes researchers in Africa, even when we sponsor students, we sponsor students from our pockets for field work, from our mega salary, just because we want to contribute something new. Sometimes you want to publish at very high level. Many of the journals now, they claim to be open access. Some of them are not open access, but you pay to publish. You publish from your pocket. So the data environment is actually very cloudy, and it's not easy. And if funding used to come from abroad, but these countries are also struggling with their own problem. Look at the case in America. America used to be one of the greatest funding countries across the world, but now it's American first, the MAGA movement. So USAID is dismantled effectively officially, and that's one of the major international development organizations that fund researches around. The EU also, all of them are copying the playbook of the United States. All of them are also closing up. The funding is there. So in terms of classroom and field work in Africa and Nigeria, data is not prioritized. And you can take that to the bank. Data is not prioritized. Even they will simply tell you what is burdening us is more than which research, leave research. We know what the problem be. We know the problem. Leave research, we go solve it. So they just simply plan without data. So people that are comfortable with planning without data. So how would they fund your research to collect data? Even when you collect for them, they don't read it. That's why I started a YouTube channel on my own. I have a YouTube channel now where I decide to teach effectively through YouTube channel. To reach out to my students and I've shared this your flyer across my social media platform. That's why I was able to give feedback about people receiving link. And many of them, I know a few of them are online as we speak. To engage, to mentor, this generation. I have a group of mentees that are on my network that we're doing things together globally. So I said, I'm just self-motivated. I'm globally focused. That's why we go this extra mile. So in terms of support from state, they lack the political will, technical interest to be able to invest in data. And many of the things they do, you can't blame them. Many of the things they do, they just want to do it for politics, patronage. They don't want to do it based on any objective indicator. And that's why it's good that we are saying this. The reason why many of the communities are left behind, poor and vulnerable people are not addressed, as population is changing, data is central. Lack of political will is central. Cronyism is central. Politics is central. Mediocrity is central. But lack of interest in data utilization is very major. And that's why it may be difficult to to move forward in terms of development as population is changing. Data has to be showing you that population is changing. Then you change your population paradigm, and you change your development paradigm, and your policy architecture needs to change. But when data should be the background, you need a baseline before you can evaluate. When you don't have data, you have no baseline. Like I said again, the metaphor, a pilot flying without GPS. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much for that metaphor. It's very vivid. I can imagine in a plane where the pilot is flying without GPS. You'll be scared for your life. But I would like to also touch on the idea of scavenge because I think it's an important strategy that a lot of us need to start learning from. Nigeria and most African countries have gotten to that point where scholars, researchers, students, whoever you are who wants to make an impact, will have to start learning to scavenge for certain things. But before I probe on that subject, I'd like to read Dr. Busari's comments on the platform. It says, you just want to say that that population is at the core of development, and population trends are a key element of the context in which development takes place. Measures directed towards influencing the well-being of the people should be of great importance to everyone. He also says, this is why I commend the administrators of this. Oh, okay. The collective well-being of the people have since been treated with levity by the government and stakeholders. Thank you for that, Dr. Busari. Now to you, Ebere. Professor Akonli mentioned the idea of scavenge earlier on. I know you work with so-called scavengers, although I think that's also a derogatory way of perceiving the work they do because they're actually essential workers. I remember during COVID when a lot of people could not dispose their waste because there were movement restriction. It was this so-called waste disposers, waste recyclers, scavengers that provided essential services to a lot of us. So while we like to see popular waste management companies as the real face of waste management anywhere in the country, while we like to see other environmental agents, or should I call actors, as mainline actors, we don't tend to see scavengers as essential to our informal economy. So talking about scavenge, number one, do you think this is an appropriate terminology to describe this sets of people who do this work? And if it is, what do you think are the more meaningful aspects of their work? How can we learn from these categories of people in navigating social challenges around us? If you get that
Okay,
question.
okay, thank you. So scavenging. I guess Dr. Kale didn't refer to them when he mentioned scavenge. I guess he used that in another context. So I think he wasn't referring to this set of people anyway.
Oh, yes, it wasn't. I was just playing on that word. I like
Okay.
to meditate on words a lot.
Okay. Okay. So it's a very derogatory term that you would use if you've not come across any better word. So it's not the best word to use. So you call them waste pickers or informal waste collectors. Some also call them reclaimers, resource reclaimers, because of the practice of going to retrieve what has been, discarded. So you can say reclaimers, you can say informal waste collectors, you can say informal recyclers, you can say waste pickers. Waste pickers is one of the most popular terms. So the second question was, you said the most meaningful aspect of their work, right?
Yes, yes. What are the most meaningful aspects of the work of we speakers now that we all can learn from in navigating? Because we are trying to see how we can build a collective future for everyone. And if these people are left out, is it that they are not useful to society? I don't think so. So now that we are acknowledging their importance, how can we learn from them so as to also not help them, because I don't think they need our help. They just need our empathy and our support. if you get what that means.
Okay. So I would say the most meaningful aspect of their work is the importance or the consequence of their work towards the environment, towards resource conservation, towards environmental pollution control. Yeah, in as much as they pick materials to sell and make money to survive on them, the unintended consequence of that is very useful to the society. Is very useful in so many ways. First of all, some of them perform some of them do what the formal sector are not able to do, go into people's households to collect waste. But the most important one that sets them apart is that this waste that they retrieve is actually reused, is actually for recycling, sometimes just reused by industries or other members of the society. And the world is currently worried about a lot of toxic materials re-entering the environment, re-entering the soil, re-entering the water bodies. And it's a global challenge. Nigeria, but what can be exported from Nigeria to somewhere like nearby countries and from there and across the water. So it cuts across borders. But because of what these people are able to do, retrieve these materials, some of them go from house to house, some of them go from street to street. So it's actually helping to conserve or minimize the amount of resources that go into waste, so that at the end of the day, pollution is minimized. And also, the activities is also opening the eyes of a lot of people. Nigeria is a very, let me say, a very beautiful country, where people would do the extra, where people would go the extra mile. Once they discover there is something useful about this, they want to also explore. So the activity is actually opening the eyes of a lot of people on what they can do with some of these resources that have been going into waste. So it's also something meaningful that they've contributed. Yeah, because a lot of people are now beginning to know that, oh, they can keep this. It's not a waste after all. You can sell it. Even before recycling became a popular thing, it's been happening. It's just plastic pollution that made it more popular recently. And because of formal recycling activities, especially in Lagos, that's what made it seem like it's a new thing. But it has actually been happening, and I knew about it even when I was a kid. So so their so their value to societies is multidimensional, actually. So they are useful environmentally and socially. They are also able to employ themselves, in as much as there is not much they can do on their own because of limited skills. So there was a paper Dr. Professor Kanle wrote. He used a lot of people in that paper, described them in a lot of ways. Some saw them as resourceful. Some saw them as some still use derogatory words, but they're actually very resourceful people indeed. So I think that is one of the things we can take away from them, that irrespective of where you find yourself, there is always something one can do to navigate the challenges.
All right. Thank you for that, Ebere. One thing I've always been fascinated by, oh, sure. I was about to throw the question back to you, but I want to also complicate Ebere's response a bit, because many of us in the ivory towers, and I'm talking about those in universities now, are often convenient extracting labels that we see in literature to describe the people that we study. And so because a scholar in a particular university has studied them and had called them scavengers, we immediately think that's a useful description of the subject or the people we study, whereas we ourselves are supposed to question these labels and begin to revise them based on our own understanding. And so I want to ask you, sir, Professor Akinwunle, your work is very global. It has a lot of reach both in Nigeria and in the diaspora. There have been a lot of labels sociologists use, let me use the word now, and not only sociologists, researchers generally, but because sociologists study our social behavior in society, how do you think, given our understanding of what it means to work with those in the informal economy or those who are characterized, say, as the wretched of the earth, to use Frantz Fanon's term, how do you think we can begin to reinvent or redescribe them in dignifying manners such that their realities are actually engaged? Because I think the reason why some people have some kind of disconnection with this kinds of people, I think, is because they've already seen them as incapable. So, for instance, the whole idea of calling people slum lords, slum dwellers, is also in my own opinion, a derogatory conceptualization. And so when you hear slum, people don't want to identify with that at all. And this has implications for practice interventions. So how can we begin to redefine, redescribe, reconceptualize those labels? Over to you, sir.
The solution is to go to put boots on the ground.
Mm.
You know, we are opportune to be in third world countries, like they put it. We are opportune to be in developing country. You know, I'm just using this concept of development, developed country, underdeveloped country, developing country, midway. I'm just using it for analytical purpose. You know, I'm a development sociologist, so the construction of some of these languages, you know, is part of my training. There is no developed country. There is no developed country. All countries are in the final analysis developing. Who can ever imagine that what is happening in the US today will ever happen? Where a president is saying, even if you have permanent residence, it doesn't mean that we can't deport you. Even if birthright citizenship is being planned to be removed. So that shows us that there is no country that is there yet. Development is not a destination. It's a process. So when I use developing country, underdeveloped country, developed country, it's just for the ease of the people on online to be able to understand what we are talking about, because that's the global categorization framework. So the only way to be able to achieve what we're talking about in terms of using I would say two major things. Number one is even you see people in consultancy, in development practice sometimes have to use derogatory word to be able to attract grants and funding from the global north, who are so used to amplifying some so-called unfortunate circumstances in some other countries. If you don't call people slum dwellers, for example, people who want to fund you abroad, if you describe them in some glamorizing or more realistic term, they won't fund you. You get what I mean? So sometimes it's because of some people's desperation to paint some realities in a very negative light for different reasons. There are those ones that suffer from ignorance because they are so far away from the ground. So they simply pick here and there on the internet. It's against this background that I use the word internet. I mean, the scavengers. They just without critically examining the concept they are using. They simply keep amplifying some negative descriptions. Let me come back to the issue of scavengers. Actually, Ebere has actually put my use of scavenging in context. I use that word to just say how Africans, how scholars from the global south struggle to be able to bring data together to do their work. They don't have access to international or very large-scale data to do their work. So they simply pick from here and there. And some of the data they pick, they're not reliable. So essentially, so that's what I use. So, but in terms of using the word scavenger, you know, I worked also in the area of plastic recycling or plastic waste in Lagos. I supervised the students a few years ago, masters, Dr. Olamide Shitu, who is in Australia now. He's a lecturer in Australia now. Even we've published from that. I'm sure Ebere has seen that work. We have discussed that work. So, like Ebere rightly mentioned, we did not use the word scavengers for them. We just capture street nuances, waste recycling behavior, plastic waste behavior. But the truth of the matter is that people on the street still call them scavengers. But in scholarship, we tend to interrogate some of those. But people, everyday people in Lagos, everyday people in Ibadan, everyday people in, because sometimes the waste they pick, they use it to create another livelihood for themselves by selling them, those ones that are recyclable to recycling company. So people just literally take the fact that they pick things there on the waste dump site to create a livelihood. And you also see some of them that some of the things they pick from those waste sites, they use them, depending on the area. So these are things, these are metaphors, these are reasons they are called scavengers, which carry derogatory implications. So, but from my perspective, we have profiled different concepts for them. So for scholarly reasons that our work goes far, you know, globally, we are careful to use the word. Even when people mention them, call them scavengers on the street, we tend to describe them in more appropriate manner too, because we understand their reality. If you ask me to describe them, I would describe them based on my research on them and my lived experiences in Nigeria. I would rather describe them as resilient people, people who within, in the context of maximum poverty, in the midst of government irresponsibility, have decided to create a livelihood for themselves where there is no livelihood in the formal sense. I would describe them as creative people who are creating something out of nothing in a society that cares for nobody. I would describe them as very hardworking people that should be celebrated rather than being reduced to nothing. I would describe them as people with pride who see dignity in labor. And I would also describe them as environmental champions, because if you see that they even perform more than the so-called former waste managers. I would describe them as recycling link. They are major links in the recycling system, ecosystem, if you like. They are providers for their families. Some of them feed families through that, and they are employment creators. They create employment because it's just the informal sector. I haven't said that. I want to also take you back on the issue of the informal economy. You know, people still, I think the narrative is changing, especially in Africa. Where unemployment is increasing in the formal sector, the informal sector of Africa is booming. Recently, Professor Mobawale edited a book on the informal sector. It's online. I considered a chapter that and my argument in that chapter with my co-authors was that the informal sector is the buffer zone. Is the buffer zone now, and is the buffer zone in Africa, because even you have graduates going to the informal sector now. I'm a very good example. I'm a professor of sociology. My wife also studied sociology in Ibadan, had a master's also in sociology. He's running a PhD now. Yet he's not working in any formal sector. He's a distributor of building material, working in the informal sector. You don't know, most of the time I marvel at how much money she makes, even more than a professor, at the comfort of the business that she has built for herself. So, and it's on record now that 70%, not less than 70% of African economy is driven by the informal sector. So there's more attention to informal sector now. So anybody that is disparaging informal sector, then is not correct, and it doesn't have the right data. Do you know they rebased Nigerian GDP recently, and they downgraded the Nigerian unemployment data? They reduced it, and they reduced the unemployment level of Nigeria because they factor in informal sector. Because the formal sector has always been used to measure unemployment, poverty, and GDP in Nigeria. They just simply know that most Nigerians and Africans work in the informal sector. So there is a more celebration. It's against that background that they recalibrated the GDP of many African countries, recalibrated the unemployment data, recalibrated the the other data. So now, if we're going to develop at the same time, we have to take account of the informal sector. Because that's actually, I have a lot of students now who refuse to go for NYSC. And I asked all of them, when we were graduating, we struggled to go for the first batch. This generation now, Gen Z, they delay to the last batch. If not because it's compulsory, they won't go. When I ask them, why are you not going for it? They say, I want to make money small. Ah, but you are not employed. They say, oh, God, you are looking at it like that. We are what we are doing. And they're not capturing the tax net. They are in the informal sector. So it's what it is. We have to pay more attention to that sector and gather more data on them. The reason why Africa have not collapsed entirely is because of the informal sector. People who are not gainfully employed in the formal sector simply find something to do. And we're also happy with the internet, social media, content creators, so many things. Now, let me answer your theme essentially. Your theme for this meeting on this day is how can we ensure collective well-being in a constantly changing planet? The world is changing. And for us to be able to change progressively. Thank you very much. Somebody, okay, I think it's from the Graduate Research Clinic. You put the word I cited on the informal sector.
Thank you. Oh, yes, I found the text. I'm uploading it right now. Thank you for mentioning it.
Very fantastic. Very fantastic. You see my chapter there where we did collected data from Southwestern Nigeria. That chapter won an award, an international award actually, where we look at how even graduates are transitioning to informal economy rather than the formal economy. Economy. That's dynamic. So for us to be able to achieve this theme in a constantly changing planet, we have to pay attention to increasing data utilization. We have to be more sensitive. Governments, non-state actors, all the key stakeholders in the population and development ecosystem have to pay more attention to justice in all that we do. There's a need to also try as much as possible to put data front, left, and center in all these countries, because many of these countries don't have data. Then we have to, whatever is going to be done, there's a need for political buy-in. Politicians don't appreciate data. Politicians are so selfish. Policymakers are so selfish. So there's a need to better engage with policymakers to be able to bring them on board that everything is not politics. And there's a need to empower the poor and the vulnerable. My latest video on my YouTube channel is on poverty and development. And I was categorizing poverty as systemic disempowerment. It's not just about giving people some handout. It's about determinedly engage them. People have what to do. Sometimes information is empowerment. Support is empowerment. So there's a need for increasing consciousness about equality and political will across many countries. Many political leaders or rulers in many poor countries, Africa and Nigeria, they don't have political will. They don't even understand the gist. I pray you have money, you get some grant. I want to suggest something to you. You can look for a grant to create a kind of a scenario, a meeting, where some of these discussions will bring African, Trump just brought some African leaders to US. I'm sure they're still there or they left. I'm sure he wants to conscientize them towards American dream. There may be a need for Afrocentric gathering or gathering of poor nations where some of these issues will be discussed with political leaders. Though they may not take it seriously, but we will not stop engaging them to draw the need to empower the poor and the vulnerables, the women, the children, the young, the old people. Do you know, we're talking about the youth bulge, but the youth bulge can actually turn to youth disaster. And that's why we're having conflict and insecurity in many agitations, banditry, kidnapping across many of these countries. And it's because of vulnerability. And he who is down, they say he fears no fall. People that have been left behind, will definitely create problem for those leaving them behind, whether in the short run or the long run. So, and we have to change our development paradigm to be dynamic and to come from below. The top-bottom approach have to be replaced by bottom-top approach. And that's why I celebrate Ebere for doing this work that she's doing, to look at what is happening on the ground, boot on the ground, they call it in the United States, to be able to see from below and make policy go up rather than policy being developed in the presidency of many countries and just put on they don't fit. So we have to put change in focus and plan for the population going forward. So these are things that I see where people are not sensitive, and they think population is not a problem. Who is ready to count who? They say there is a bigger problem, and they don't know that you can't build something on nothing. Data is the basis. Without data, there cannot be development. Population that you don't even know how many they are. How do you plan for them? Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Akonle. You have masterly exploited some of the things that we were planning to go into soon. But we'd like to take a short break so people can take a step back from their screens, stretch, use the restroom, take water, because we also like to practice wellness during our seminars so that people won't be stuck on the screen for multiple hours. But while we are doing that, I'd like to share Professor Akonle's YouTube channel and actually the video he just talked about on poverty. So enjoy while you take a break. Thank you.
Today, and it gives me great joy to observe you are viewing this video. I'm Professor Olayinka Akonle. I'm a lecturer in on this channel. I do a number of stuff, but all the stuff I do, you can easily cluster them into 4. But sociology and research, are very on this channel. And I do content also on relationship and migration. So you're welcome onto my channel once again. Meanwhile, if you have not subscribed to this channel, kindly go ahead and click subscribe on your screen right now. Tap subscribe on your screen right now to join my family of subscribers. So the video you are viewing today is on poverty. Poverty, the meaning, the types, the causes, the perspectives, especially within the broad framework of poverty and development. Development at multi-level, individual development, community development, national development, and even global development. So my discussion of poverty today is within the confine of development. How does poverty affect development? How can poverty be addressed, and how can it be understood even for the perspective of multi-level development? So, and I wanted to view the video of today from the way it affects you, or it might affect you, and what you can do about it, and how it affects others, and how to build your capacity generally about poverty, as a major issue. If our countries are described as poor nations today, underdeveloped nations today, developed nations today, low-income countries today, middle-income countries today, all these fall broadly within the confine of sociology of development or development studies generally, or even development economics. So my discussion today is broadly within poverty and development. I will talk about the meanings, the types and causes and perspectives through which we can explain, development. You're welcome. Don't forget to click subscribe. So what is poverty? Poverty generally is regarded as a state where an individual or a group of people, a community, are not able to meet their needs. State of the individual lack of, ability to provide or to meet the needs needed to have standard quality of life or high or acceptable standard of living. So a state of individuals or communities.
Okay, so we are welcome. I hope you enjoyed that short clip. You can go to Professor Akonle's YouTube channel to watch more of those kind of informative and educational videos. And we've dropped the link to the channel on the chat room. We'll be continuing this conversation by looking into some methodological issues. And I want to probe Ebere's work more in-depthly here. One of the things we pride in the JRC is how to build the capacity of graduate students and early career researchers through a peer mentorship framework. Many people look up to the professors, look up to the veterans in their fields, but rarely do you know that someone close to you might even be your mentor. And this is one of the things that someone like me have found particularly instructive. For instance, it was Ebere unknown to her, who encouraged me to apply for a Codestra grant that I got recently. I did tell her that I was interested in applying for this and what she thought about it. And it was advice and encouragement that actually made me go on. So I'm proud to say Barry is my mentor. Now I'm speaking to my mentor now. Now, you've been working on your project for a while and you're at the final phase, thankfully. I want you to tell us, what are those challenges you faced during field work, and how did you bootstrap? How did you use your what they call emotional intelligence to navigate those challenges?
Okay, so I basically faced two challenges, or maybe the two I identify as most important, which was working with the bulky data. First of all, I interrogated quite a number of groups just to have a holistic picture of what the sectors I was investigating looked like. But I didn't have access to a qualitative tool for the analysis. So it took quite some time. It made me spend a lot of time on the analysis. So basically, let me say this is just the most important challenge that I faced. Just working with the bulky data, and another one was a little bit of delay I got when I was waiting for approval from LOMA to visit landfill sites. It was taking more time than I expected, so I decided to use my initiative to start doing random sampling around my vicinity in particular places that I saw interesting things, things that were interesting to my research. So those were some of the things I did while I was waiting for the approval. So these are just the two most important challenges.
Okay, thank you for sharing this with us. I can relate with the Loma problem because in 2022, I was also at one of the landfills for a project, and we had written for approval and we were waiting for it. And I just decided to do participant observation. I dressed up as a waste picker and I was just monitoring, yeah, how the trucks were moving in and out, the kids, the children involved. And that's one of the other things that we haven't started addressing yet, child labor in our landfills. I also noticed a lot of or should I call them internationals, because the particular person I interacted with was from Niger. And so that already gave me the multifaceted nature of landfills. And while I said probing, they noticed that I was not a landfill worker. I don't know what in my appearance gave me away. And so they approached me. I explained to them we had submitted request for approval. We're waiting on it. I'm just observing as anyone else can. It's a public space, right? And that's how I was whisked away. Thankfully, I wasn't taken to somewhere I couldn't leave. But I can relate to that kind of challenge. And this already gives us a sense of why it is difficult to do research in Nigeria. Nigeria is one of the most research, should I say, impervious places in the world. Not because we don't have researchers who are competent, but because the system itself, the culture of research is very poor. And to find women, young women like you doing this research, despite the challenge, is quite laudable. One more question before we go to the general questions and answers. Now that you are collected data, you're doing your analysis, you're writing up, where do you envisage this kind of research leading you to? I've had within the last month couple of colleagues who recently finished their PhD, and I also asked Professor Akonle this question because when we talk about collective well-being, we should also look at those who are at the bottom rung of the academic ladder. Many grad students are not bold enough to approach their supervisors or the head of department or any other person to ask career advices. And so they finish their PhD and they wait multiple months or years before they start looking for alternatives to teaching because the jobs in the academia is scarce. And unfortunately, most PhDs, or as far as I'm aware, are being trained to be lecturers, not so much, community workers. So in your own sense and given your own career trajectory, where do you think this kind of work leads you to? That's a lot to reflect on, right?
Well, I'm always careful not to pigeonhole myself in any specific, place or thing. I try to keep my options as open as possible. Yeah, because I know that I always tell myself, well, I would not employ myself. But I look forward to working in maybe NGOs, international NGOs that deal with similar issues, environmental international NGOs, research institutes, or in the academia. So I would just categorize my target as academic institute and related research institutes. So that's just what I would say for now.
All right. Thank you. Professor Akonle, what advice would you give to graduate students or even professionals who are looking out for opportunities in either development or, migration, which you are very involved with, and do not necessarily want to, like Ebere said, be pigeonholed within the academia? What kind of opportunities do you think from your experiences are available?
Yeah, thank you. That's a very important question, especially because we also have young people joining us on this platform. And we also, I'm sure you as a very creative and dynamic person, there are many things you can bring out of this conversation going forward. So I will, that's why I've been very intentional in my participation since we came online. In fact, that's why also I accepted the invitation, even within all my other busy schedule. I'm a very deliberate person and I don't do things by accident. The very important thing to first know is that people must understand why they are doing whatever they are doing. We all also passed through some situations like this when we were when we were also younger. Not that we are old now. I'm a Gen Z, so I don't carry the old thing in my heart. I carry the Gen Z spirit in my heart, and that's why when I teach with a lot of energy and vibes, and that's on record for my students. The way I carry myself, I don't carry myself like old person, because I also think it's not good for us to create a generational divide. I see some people as old and some people as young. We must connect. Part of the problem is having generational lag, you know. So, but it's true that, the pedagogy, or they say it's now in andrology, andrology or something, is in Africa and many developing countries is power distance. Power distance. That means a gap between the supervisor and supervisee. So there's this gulf in between that many people have created. But have deliberately destroyed that gap. You can do a research on me. I give you freedom to talk to people who have passed through me, whether as supervisor or as lecturer. They will tell you, I'm in class, people walk up to me. Anywhere I am, people can break my boundary and speak to me. But that's not the average. If you use me as an average lecturer in Africa, then you will run into serious problem. So, because I'm just deliberately breeding generational gap. In fact, I dress like Gen Z. I ask people who know me. Ebere will also tell you. If I'm in class, a lot of my colleagues find it difficult to know that if I'm going ahead, they won't know I'm the one. They will think maybe it's just a random 400 level student or a master's student. They will say it to me severally. And it's just because I took that identity to be able to connect with this generation that we are relating with. So many are not bold enough. Not that they are not bold, but they've been suppressed. You know, with the way some lecturers, some people deal with them. So you see students who want to enter the supervisor's office and they pray first. They pray, and fast. You can't even send WhatsApp message and expect response. That might be the end of your supervision. They say you are rude. So it's not that maybe they are bold, but it's just that the supervision environment is so authoritarian and despotic, if you like. So career advice I can give if somebody is doing a PhD, for a very particular she's working in a very nice area. Like I told you, that's what Lamide also did, and she got a scholarship especially for PhD, and she's now a faculty member in the in Australia. And I've had a lot of students, leverage what they did in their PhD. Unfortunately, we're having a problem now that the brilliant ones also are being pushed from this very area. So my career advice for us is to be open. Life itself is not pigeonholed to deal with us in certain ways. Life can throw many things at you. So the first thing that if you're on a PhD or even on a master's, be open to opportunities. I have some students sometimes ago, I was pursuing them for masters, they were looking for PhD and for scholarship abroad, which is the normal thing they do in Nigeria. And I said, as you are looking for this scholarship, it's not certain, it's competitive. Start your PhD here. And when you start, if you don't finish till you get a scholarship abroad, then go. But don't just stay without doing anything. So people have to be open, dynamic, open to many options. But as you're open to many options, be focused. You have to be focused. There must be something you are pursuing. There must be an area. In fact, your research is supposed to focus a particular career area to establish a trajectory. Nobody should do a PhD in an area that does not connect with your ultimate career goal, because your trajectory will be very important in the long run where you get employment. So, and I will also tell Ebere, if you don't get good offer from international organization or NGO, you to start one. You can. I have people like that who just started their own when something else, and today they are people will not validate you until you have done something. So be open, whatever you are doing, everyone. Even we at this level, we are still open to many options, yet we establish a trajectory. So career advice, be open, be intentional, but be focused. Know what you are doing. Establish your strategic plan. What do you want to do in 2 years, in 1 year, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 20 years? Every year you must examine yourself, then take a different route in a dynamic world. You also have to be dynamic. All of us have to be dynamic. Even at my age, dynamism is a watchword. I'm not rigid at all. I'm a professor, but at the same time, I don't see myself to have been at the top. I'm still at the bottom, still hustling. We are all of us day streets. I will not be so very. That's
so sound.
That's the way in Nigeria. Everybody day streets. Nobody there. Yes. Nothing will happen. We did there. We did run together. Yeah. So we have to be focused, be rugged, and and we have to just I believe. But people should also. You can also have this conversation. It's good to have mentors. I have a mentoring platform where all my in-circle mentors, we have a platform, we call it Preso Acknowledged Network. All my mentees across the world, those ones are already trusted, we put ourselves there. We share opportunities, scholarship opportunities, employment opportunities. That's the only thing we do there. Don't come there and pray. It has never happened. Everybody know the rule. Go pray for church or mosque. No put politics there. Don't put, you must see this. Don't put it there. Strictly, and people all over the world, they put things there by the day. And people have, because from there gotten employment. If they are confused, they call me bilaterally. I call them bilaterally. I was going to the UK sometimes ago. It's one of them I called who won a scholarship. And so like that. So we need to have mentoring approach. And we must also be bold to ask questions. Sometimes we are just afraid of our supervisors. Even sometimes we give them larger than life image. What they are not, we ascribe to them. So we just have to break the barrier. But mentoring is very important. I have mentors. The other day I was in Geneva in the United Nations. My mentor called my number and said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in the United Nations." He said, "Shoti Jakpani." That is, have you Jakpa? I don't know, I'm not Jakpa. And Prof spoke to me for over 1 hour. Why I must not Jakpa? At the point that we're offers from all over the world, but at some levels, you make your choice carefully. And I have mentors academically, mentors for family, mentors for different things. So, and mentors don't have to be, there should be no age barrier. So we have to get mentors. So the trajectories you want to go in life, you get a mentor who have succeeded in that trajectory and begin to follow the footprints of the person. Once the person that you are becoming a mentee, they will take you on board. What took your mentor 50 years to achieve will only take him maybe 5 years, because all the mistakes that he has made, he will not allow you to make it. So mentoring is very important. Be intentional, be dynamic and open to opportunities, but be focused so that you are not going to be everywhere and going nowhere. I think those are very, then if you want to be in academics, publication is very important. I didn't have somebody to tell me this. I should have been publishing from my undergraduate. I always tell my students, all these seminar papers they are giving you, don't just think about marks. You can publish them. If you want to be, your focus will determine what to put your effort in. If you are targeting academics, publication is central, and start early and publish in nice places. These are people who finish PhD without a single publication. Then they said they want to lecture. How can you lecture without, when the chips are down, they won't give you the juicy part. But if you have been publishing, you already have Google Scholar page, you have ResearchGate, you have LinkedIn, you have Scopus profile. If you apply to somebody somewhere, they can even give you job even overseas from wherever you are in Africa. They say this one has trajectory. You are not yet a professor, but you have a profile that is bigger than that of a professor. Now it's not about maybe you are in America or you are in Canada anymore. The metrics are online. What's your H index? What's your RG score? What's your Scopus index? If you look at it, the global ranking for professors are open. You might say you are a professor in Nigeria or Ghana. You may not be worth more than just a great assistant in some other country, because they just Google you. Check your Google profile, check your ResearchGate profile, check your Scopus profile. This one, who made this one professor? So you can be anywhere you are. You will just finish a PhD today. You have a profile that is more than a professor. So if you don't have, it's a global. By the time your H index is 10, you're already a professor globally. They will address you as professor. They don't want to know whether you are here or great assistant where you are from. This happened to me severally over many years. So it's about knowing where you want to be and determine what you need to get there and begin to acquire those things. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Akinle. You effectively converted this into a mentoring seminar. We appreciate that. Professor Akinle will have to leave shortly, but we want to throw the floor open to participants. If you have any questions, both those watching us on YouTube and those here on the platform, any questions, contributions, observation, and Dr. Busari, okay, I dropped off the call. I think it's still having challenges connecting. Is there any question from anyone?
Just a casual question to Dr. Akinle.
Okay, go on.
So, Dr. Akinle, I'm just a bit inquisitive. Why did your mentor say you should not Jakpa?
Okay, that's a very nice question. You see, it's a very nice question. You see, at every point in life, there are things you carefully get involved in. And I'll be very sincere in answering that question, because I know you very well. You don't do things randomly. You do things on purpose, and you know what you want. So I will answer that question with sincerity. So my mentor just, I will tell you what he said to me. The reason I've had all my mentors, none of them has advised me to Jakpa, because they just believe there is a particular age you get to. Jakpa is not meant for you anymore. I'm 53 years. I was 52 by March 2026. I'll be 53. Number one, at that age, it's not a time to begin to evacuate and relocate for all intents and purposes. Because number two, which is also even more important, is the fact that I'm already established in a career. I have a career that is established. Most of the time, if you Jakpa or if you emigrate at some career level, it may be difficult for you to replicate that career level where you are going to. Because the value system may be different, will be certainly different. I will tell you, not more than 5% of people who jackpot at my career level were able to recycle themselves effectively to the same career level abroad. Because the ranking system is different. For example, in Canada, if you don't school in Canada, it's difficult to get a job in Canada. You can confirm that. Canada, the Canadian certificate is the #1 recognized. There are some jobs they won't give you. If you like, be emeritus professor. To get a graduate assistant job there will be difficult for you. Because there are value systems, there are norms, there are value system, normativities, and cultural requirements beyond your certificate that can stabilize you abroad. Then the adjustment at my age abroad will not be easy compared to your own age. So, and again, I'm very, very established in my career, and I'm very comfortable. I'm self-motivated. All I need to live a good life, God has given by the grace of God. And I still the streets, they also. So I will get more. So if people that are my mentor who knew me from childhood and they know my trajectory, just think at this level. I should rather go, come back. Maybe go as a visiting scholar, come back. Do projects with them abroad, go for project meeting abroad and return. Go for conferences and return, but not to go abroad, which will most likely not end well at my career level. They will even tell me, Yinka is my first name. Kilonwa, that is Yinka, what are you looking for that God has not done for you? So that's why they usually say, I'm also in migration studies. That part is not for everybody. Immigration is not for everybody. It must be contextualized and personalized. That's why they say so.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you for that. There's also the phenomenon of jackpot, of those who have gone and are now returning because they've seen that it is not as. So I think that is a very important issue.
Them are already established abroad. They've made enough money, and they don't want to die abroad. The old age, they don't want to spend their old age abroad. So they are bringing the money they have acquired abroad to come and re-establish at home. Then there's those people who believe that their jackpot was actually in error. It backfired. So they are finding their way back. Those are the two major reasons they are jackpot dying.
Thank you, sir. Matthew, can you please unmute yourself and ask a question briefly? Thank you.
Oh, good evening, sir. Yeah, I want to actually appreciate our Prof. Emeritus for this wonderful insight he has given to us in this program. Yes, I want to tell him that I love and I wish to connect so that I can learn at his feet. That's number one. Number two, I want to ask, like, it is not okay for people to jackpot abroad, but what if you are just gotten an appointment and there is need to relocate your family from a place to another place in Nigeria? Is that okay? I want to learn. Thank you, sir.
Okay, so
let me answer that question.
Yes, okay. I wanted to call you. I didn't know you were still online. Go on, sir.
I can't just vote on you like that. I can't just run away. Today, I'm the one here. Tomorrow, I might also need you to do certain things that are scholarly. So I don't treat people with the disrespect. Just voting like that, I disrespect to you and your program. Yes, I respect you a lot, and I respect your platform. So the question is this. Jackpot, migration is by nature human. And it's a natural occurrence. People have been migrating since even pre-slavery era. It's a human nature. And I have a lot of people who, my mentees, who are abroad, and they are doing very well. So migration itself is very good. There is no problem about migration. Even maybe I didn't remember to tell you, I once lived abroad. I lived overseas in Western country for some time before I returned to Nigeria. So I'm a migrant myself. And I can still be a migrant tomorrow. Who knows? If anything that is so fantastic is fine, why not? So migration is good. So if you have good offer, and like the way I analyze my situation when anybody asks me that question, You analyze you must be fair and sincere. You must not put that pressure, otherwise you may run into trouble. So because it's a conviction that will take you forward when challenges come. So if you get a good employment, you analyzed yourself, you did your SWOT analysis, your PES2 analysis, you sought counsel from people, your external and internal networks, and you did the own analysis. You need to relocate abroad, and you think it's fine. Why not? Why not? You move abroad, you move. You can move to US, move to Canada, Australia, anywhere, so far it meets your goal. That's why I say you must be focused. You must have your goals. You must know what you want and what you don't want. So if your opportunities come, employment, scholarship, why not? I have many of my mentees abroad. Many of them just finishing PhD, many of them getting jobs abroad and Nigeria, and they are doing well. So I'm not against jackpot or emigrating from your country. Why not? If the opportunities are there, if they are good. Okay, I was passing one student like 2 years ago. We were already like in between, middle of the PhD program. And she got a scholarship abroad. I was the one that first of all pursue her out of my office. Leave this one, leave this one, leave this one. This one is self-funded, is fully funded. You will locate your family with you. They will even give you job over there. Abandon this one. Go. She was not married. Quickly, we organized the marriage. And they are there abroad doing well. I didn't say I've wasted 2 years to supervise you. Now you want to abandon. No, I'm not like that. We just did the analysis together. And we saw the analysis, it was fine. That is positive. So she left. And I always send opportunities for my mentees to apply for things abroad, even as I'm supervising them. Anyone that gets something that we analyze together, they go. But you must do your critical analysis very well. The SWOT analysis must be correct so that the future will not blame us tomorrow. So anybody, I'll just tell the chair, I don't know, maybe it's president or chairman or director of a graduate research clinic.
No, not president. I'm just a team member like everybody.
Okay. But you can't be member, you are team lead. I can manage team lead. So lead can collate all the questions, comments, and requests on the platform in the chat room. Collect them. Anyone that you need to bring to my attention, you can send it to my WhatsApp. And if you have a place for Gen Z like my age, add me to your platform. I will gladly.
Yeah. I was about to request your permission to be added to the Gather Research because that is even where Professor Mobile Ali suggested that we speak to you. So we are going to be adding you to the GRC shortly. Thank you so much.
Anything I can do for you, I'll gladly do.
Thank you.
So I think it's a good place to add it. So Ebere, thank you very much. I'm happy to see your face. On this panel. Thank you very much. So I would like to run now.
Thank you so much, Prof. We'll be in touch with you.
Please feel free. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you for joining. God bless you.
Thank you, sir. It was a pleasure.
Ebere, any last words from you before we wrap up?
Okay. Okay, just a quick lesson I learned in the course of my work. Just 2 lessons I want to share. That if you are on the program, on the PhD program, and you have maybe you have a couple of research participants across groups, I would advise you use a top-down approach in your data collection method. What I mean by that is, for example, you have government agency, you have private sector, you have other groups that are not at the top, but are connected in some way. My advice would be you start from the government agency. It's like someone standing on a hill and looking down, you would see clearer. Yeah, it gives you the opportunity to understand even across other participants, other participants in the study more clearly. It gives you the opportunity to connect better, especially if you're doing a qualitative research. It gives you, it's even an avenue to start your snowball sampling from that angle. People maybe you were struggling to, how do I locate these people? It gives you the opportunity. You can get the contacts from there, and then you move down. And I'd also advise that people who are on the program should also seek external support. Don't just rely on the materials and tools in your university. Seek external support. And what I mean by that is capacity building opportunities. Capacity building opportunities across, can be locally, it can be regionally, it can be internationally. They're always competitive, as Professor Akonle said, but it's better to try and stand a chance than not try at all. So these are just two lessons I wanted to share with you. Dr. Toby.
Yeah, thank you so much.
I'll stop here. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, so we will have a follow-up conversation with you, especially to discuss the outcome of your current fellowship and your work. Hopefully, it's when your PhD is formally conferred. Then we'll be able to address you effectively as Dr. Iberi. Thank you for your time. On behalf of the team, I appreciate you, and we'll be in touch with you on subsequent issues. And this is also a general thank you to everyone. Those who contributed, those who asked questions, and those who were observing, and of course, members of the GRC team. We'll see you some other time. Have a wonderful